October 10th, 1896. Bandakea Wijiko Village, Congo Free State. The soldiers arrive at dawn. 50 bodies will fall before noon. A missionary watches helpless as baskets fill with severed hands. Right hands only. The commander counts them carefully. One hand per bullet spent. Proof of efficiency. Proof of obedience. A child stands nearby, staring at where her father's hand used to be. She doesn't cry. She's learned not to cry. 7,000 miles away, in a palace in Brussels, a man with a long white beard signs documents. King Leopold II has never set foot in Africa. He never will. But he owns it. All of it. 900,000 square miles. 76 times larger than Belgium itself. A territory he calls the Congo Free State. There's nothing free about it. This is the story of how one man turned an entire continent into his private slaughterhouse, and how the world let him do it. April 9th, 1835. A child is born into Belgian royalty. His name is Leopold Louis Philippe Marie Victor. His older brother dies within a year. Suddenly, this awkward, limping boy with a hooked nose becomes heir to a throne. His father calls him the little tyrant. His mother thinks his appearance makes him deformed. He walks alone through palace corridors, bitter, ambitious, hungry for something his tiny country cannot give him. Greatness. Belgium is barely 5 years old when Leopold is born. Sandwiched between France and Germany, it's a punchline among European powers. Too small, too weak, too insignificant. Leopold grows up watching other nations carve up the world. Britain has India, France has Algeria, the Netherlands has Indonesia, even tiny Portugal has colonies. Belgium has nothing. At 18, he marries Austrian Princess Marie Henriette, known as the Rose of Brabant. Beautiful, talented. Everything Leopold is not. The marriage is political, it's loveless. She produces 3 daughters and a son. The boy drowns in a pond at their palace. Leopold blames his wife. Their relationship dies with their child. But Leopold has bigger ambitions than domestic happiness. Between 1853 and 1865, he travels obsessively. India, China, Africa. Everywhere he sees European powers extracting wealth from colonized lands. He takes notes. He makes plans. He waits. December 1865. His father dies. Leopold becomes king at 30. His first act as monarch? Lobbies Spain to give him the Philippines. Spain refuses. He tries Egypt. No. He considers Borneo. Nothing. Every door slams in his face. Then he hears about Africa, specifically the Congo Basin, the heart of darkness, unmapped, unexplored, unclaimed, most importantly, undefended. Leopold is smart, smarter than anyone gives him credit for. He doesn't announce his intentions. He doesn't send armies. He wraps his greed in the language of humanitarianism. In 1876, he hosts the Brussels Geographic Conference. Scientists, explorers, philanthropists, all gathered to discuss the civilizing mission in Africa. Leopold stands before them, hands folded, voice gentle. The subject which brings us together today is one eminently deserving the attention of the friends of humanity, he declares. He speaks of ending the Arab slave trade, of bringing Christianity to the savage peoples, of science and progress and enlightenment. It's all lies. Behind the scenes, Leopold hires Henry Morton Stanley, the famous explorer. Stanley travels the Congo River, setting up trading posts, signing treaties with illiterate chiefs who have no idea what they're agreeing to. Some treaties are forged entirely. Others are manipulated after signing. It doesn't matter. Leopold needs paper legitimacy. At the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, the European powers carve up Africa like a Christmas turkey. They need someone to control the Congo Basin. Leopold presents himself as the humanitarian choice, the perfect neutral party. His International African Association will bring civilization, not colonization. The United States recognizes Leopold's claim first. Then every major European power follows. On February 5th, 1885, the Congo Free State is born, not as a Belgian colony, as Leopold's personal possession, his private property, a territory larger than France, Germany, and Spain combined, owned by one man. Leopold never visits, not once. He rules from Brussels through appointed officials and a private army called the Force Publique. White officers command black soldiers press-ganged into service. Some are kidnapped. Others are bought from tribal leaders. The recruitment doesn't matter. What matters is control. The 1890s, the rubber boom. Suddenly, everything changes. The inflatable bicycle tire is invented. Automobiles appear on city streets. Rubber becomes the most valuable commodity on Earth, and the Congo Basin is covered in rubber vines. Leopold issues a decree. All vacant land belongs to the state. Everything growing on that land, ivory, rubber, palm oil, belongs to Leopold. Congolese people can't sell their own harvests. They can't work for themselves. They must work for the king. For free, forever. Quotas are established. Every village must deliver specific amounts of rubber by specific dates. Miss the quota? The Force Publique comes. They burn villages. They kidnap wives and children as hostages. They execute chiefs. They hang women and children from palisades in the form of a cross. But the most efficient punishment, the one that becomes the symbol of Leopold's Congo, is simpler: amputation. The Force Publique is given bullets imported from Europe at enormous cost. To prevent waste, officers demand proof for every bullet fired. That proof comes in the form of severed right hands, one hand per bullet. If soldiers miss their shots or use ammunition for hunting, they must make up the difference. By cutting hands from living people, the system becomes monstrous. Hands become currency. Soldiers bring baskets of severed hands instead of rubber when they can't meet quotas. Villages raid neighboring villages for hands because their own rubber quotas are impossible to fill. Children's hands, women's hands, the elderly. It doesn't matter. The Force Publique needs hands. A Danish missionary witnesses it firsthand and asks a soldier why. The soldier's answer is chilling. They kill us if we don't bring the rubber. The commissioner has promised us if we have plenty of hands, he will shorten our service. Rubber collecting itself is torture. Workers spread liquid latex on their arms, thighs, and chests. It dries, then they rip it off, tearing away skin and hair. Some need 24 days of labor per month in the jungle just to meet their quotas. Many die in the forest. Others return home to find their families murdered, their villages burned. 1890. The truth begins to leak. George Washington Williams, an American historian and journalist, travels to the Congo. What he sees horrifies him. He writes an open letter to Leopold, detailing the suffering, the brutality, the systematic destruction of an entire people. Leopold ignores him. Joseph Conrad visits in 1890 as a steamboat captain. What he witnesses haunts him for the rest of his life. 9 years later, he publishes Heart of Darkness, a novel dripping with blood and horror. Critics assume he's exaggerating. He isn't. If anything, the reality is worse. British diplomat Roger Casement is sent to investigate in 1903. His report is devastating. Documented atrocities, eyewitness testimony, photographs of mutilated children holding the severed hands of their parents, of villages burned to ash, of bodies stacked like cordwood. Edmund Dean Morel, a British journalist, notices something strange. Ships leaving Belgium for the Congo carry only weapons. Ships returning carry rubber and ivory. He realizes the truth. There's no trade happening, only theft, only slavery, only murder. Morel founds the Congo Reform Association in 1904. It becomes the world's first large-scale human rights organization. Demonstrations erupt across Europe and America. Mark Twain writes a satirical pamphlet called King Leopold's Soliloquy. Arthur Conan Doyle publishes The Crime of the Congo. The pressure builds. In 1905, an international commission investigates. Their report confirms everything: the torture, the mutilations, the genocidal death toll. Leopold can no longer deny it. The evidence is overwhelming. The photographs don't lie. The missionary testimonies are consistent. The world knows. But Leopold fights back. He hires publicists. He sponsors expeditions led by carefully selected observers who see only what his officials want them to see. He bribes journalists. He destroys records. Before his death, he orders his aide to burn the entire Congo Free State archive. They have no right to know what I did there, he says. Tarjur 8. The end of an era. The Belgian parliament, under intense international pressure, votes to strip the Congo from Leopold. The United States, Britain, France, and Germany all demand action. Leopold demands payment. He extracts 215.5 million francs for his outstanding debts, for his building projects in Brussels, for future receipts. He's being paid to surrender territory where he murdered millions. He also destroys the records. Almost everything. The paper trail of genocide goes up in flames. The Congo becomes the Belgian Congo, officially a colony of Belgium. The worst abuses decrease, but the exploitation continues. Forced labor remains. The brutality shifts forms, but doesn't disappear. The Congolese people won't achieve independence until 1960, 52 years later. December 17, 1909. Laeken, Belgium, King Leopold II dies at 74. His funeral procession passes through Brussels. The crowd boos, they hiss, they shout their disgust. Even his own people can't forgive him. He leaves behind grand buildings, the Cinquantenaire Arch, the Royal Greenhouses of Laeken, the Avenue Louise, the Royal Museum for Central Africa, originally displaying a traditional Congolese village like a human zoo, monuments to a builder king, constructed with blood money. He also leaves behind a death toll that historians still debate. Conservative estimates, 1 million dead. Moderate estimates, 10 million. Some suggest 15 million. The exact number will never be known because Leopold destroyed the records. But scholars generally agree. Roughly half the Congolese population died under his rule. Half. Killed by violence, disease, starvation, and a work regime so brutal that birth rates collapsed. For comparison, Hitler's Holocaust killed 6 million Jews. Stalin's purges killed 20 to 30 million. Leopold, operating alone as a private citizen, killed somewhere between 1 and 15 million people. For profit, for rubber, for his own personal enrichment. Return to that morning. October 10th, 1896, Bandakea, Wijiko village. The girl stands beside her father's body. His right hand is gone, taken as proof, evidence of efficiency, a soldier's ticket to shorter service. The basket of hands will travel to a European post commander. He'll count them, record the number, file a report. The system will continue. The girl will survive. Many don't. But she'll carry the scars, physical and psychological, for the rest of her life. She'll tell her story to missionaries. It will be documented, photographed, published in newspapers across Europe and America. It will become one tiny piece of evidence in a mountain of horrors. But Leopold will never face trial. He'll die in his palace, wealthy, surrounded by monuments to his greatness. His funeral will be booed, but the crowd will disperse. Attention to the Congo atrocities will fade. In the 1930s, Leopold's nephew, King Albert I, will commission statues honoring the Builder King. Schools will teach Belgian children about Leopold's vision and progress, carefully editing out the millions of corpses. It will take nearly a century for Belgium to truly confront what Leopold did. In 2020, following George Floyd's murder and global Black Lives Matter protests, Leopold's statues will be vandalized and removed. King Philippe will finally express deepest regret for the colonial past, but still won't explicitly mention Leopold's role. No formal apology, no acknowledgement of genocide, just regret, carefully worded, politically neutral. The phrase crimes against humanity was coined to describe what Leopold did in the Congo. The Congo Reform Association pioneered modern human rights activism. The international pressure that finally ended Leopold's rule established a precedent. The world has a responsibility to intervene when atrocities occur. But Leopold himself paid no price. He died wealthy, powerful, remembered by many as a great king. The victims? Millions of nameless dead. Villages erased from existence. Children with severed hands. Families destroyed. A population cut in half. One man, one country. 23 years. A Holocaust hidden in plain sight. The worst president, the worst ruler, history nearly forgot.